unbelievable. It's like holding a kitten while she sneezes. There's absolutely no recoil to this pistol whatsoever. It is one of the most superbly engineered pieces of hardware I have ever held. Oh my gosh.
This is the CZ Tactical Sport 2. It is a top-tier competition pistol, which operators use to bullseye targets like a laser beam. Because the gun converts 9mm recoil into little more than a gentle cat fart, you can shoot it very, very fast. It is made from a solid slab of steel, just like guns are supposed to be. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to have your own personal Abrams tank sandwiched between your hands, this is it. The build quality is second to none, and the thing runs like a grizzly with a snout full of cocaine. So if you are thinking of getting serious about shooting, and maybe you don't want to get caught up in the 2011 craze, this pistol should be at the very top of your list. Let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Today we have a very special treat. This is the CZ Tactical Sport 2. Now, like many pistols in the CZ lineup, this gun is made in the image of the venerable original gangster, the CZ 75. And while this gun might look familiar to you, that's because it does have a very famous older brother, the Shadow 2. While they do share a lot of similarities, they are in fact quite different. The TS2 has a lot of unique characteristics unto itself, and we're going to talk about those in today's show. Now, before we get any farther, I just want to say up front, this is easily one of the greatest pistols I have ever shot. It's really an honor to be able to bring this to you today. I can't wait to get started, so let's get out to the range.
Feel good, I can't help but feel fine. Everything is in its place and everything is mine. Ooh, I can't help but smile. Ooh, I can't help but smile. I can't help but smile.
Okay, so what is the CZ Tactical Sport 2? It looks like a Shadow 2, which looks like a CZ 75, but it's not really either one of those things. The TS2 is a solid steel, semi-automatic pistol chambered in 9mm. It also comes in 40 Smith & Wesson. That's an important detail, which we will talk more about later on. But for now, the thing that sets this pistol into a category of its own amongst the CZ family is its single action only trigger. Yes, this gun is designed specifically for competition. It has a whopping 5.3-inch barrel contained within a long and narrow snout, like an alligator which sneezes fire. The gun sends projectiles downrange with precision accuracy. The average person will never be able to outshoot this pistol, and the professional competitor will be able to blaze a trail straight to the podium, even against a field of ultra-modern, high-end 2011 pistols. In short, the TS2 is a superb firearm. Unlike many of the more dainty, finicky target pistols out there, this thing is rugged. It's built like a tank. You can run it all day and it never chokes. Furthermore, you don't need to spend a fortune on match-grade ammunition, because this gun doesn't much care what you feed it. It chews through cheap ammo, spits flames, and confidently insists, "Sir, may I have another?" And this is where we need to circle back to the aforementioned 40 Smith & Wesson ammo. You see, the TS2 was originally designed around the 40 caliber cartridge. And when we do a side-by-side comparison with 9mm, we can see that the 40 is ever so slightly bigger, almost as if a 9mm got stung by a bee, had an allergic reaction, and puffed up an extra pant size or two. Now, because the TS2 was designed to contain this larger 40 caliber, this gun has a little extra room inside its guts to move those slightly smaller 9mm cartridges around without getting stuck. And this, in my humble opinion, is a winning formula for a gun that never jams. There is plenty of room to breathe and plenty of room to digest without getting constipated. We have encountered no malfunctions to speak of, ranking the TS2 right up there with Glock-level reliability. That is not something you typically get out of a high-end target pistol.
Okay, now that we're on the subject of ammunition and magazines and all these kinds of things, there is one thing that I want to make abundantly clear right up front. The CZ Tactical Sport 2 and the Shadow 2 do not have cross-compatible magazines. Tactical Sport 2 magazines only work with the Tactical Sport 2. Shadow 2 magazines only work with the Shadow 2. It would be super cool if they were all cross-compatible and you could just buy one gun and hot swap all of your mags, but unfortunately, that is just not the case. Somewhere along the line, CZ decided to separate the DNA of these two guns. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Now, with all of these caliber considerations in mind, it is certainly worth mentioning that the TS2 is a very large, very heavy gun. It may seem somewhat overwhelming to someone with smaller hands, and despite the spectacular ergonomics, the pistol may not necessarily be the right fit for younger shooters and women. I have small to medium-sized hands and the gun fits me perfectly. However, with this in mind, we definitely recommend the try before you buy method. The modern 2011 may indeed be the choice of many competition shooters, but for all their merits, they are not always the most reliable firearms. The TS2, on the other hand, would be right at home in an all-out war zone, just the same as a competition range. And now, here's where things get tricky.
All right, I know that we've been heaping praise upon this pistol the entire episode. So if there was one thing that I could change about this gun, I think the obvious answer is I would put a Picatinny rail right across the top there. Now, I know that the engineers at CZ have designed this to be perfectly balanced. It doesn't need any kind of heavy flashlight or counterbalance up there hanging off the front of it in order to deliver perfectly laser straight shots every time. But this gun does so many things so well that it's a shame not to be able to use it in some type of a self-defense capacity. I would gladly use this gun as a home defense weapon if you could hang a light off of the front of it. Sadly, most crime tends to happen after dark, and if your self-defensive weapons don't have lights on them, you're in a bit of a bad position. So CZ, if you are listening, if you are ever going to come out with another iteration of this gun, I know we love this giant slab of steel hanging off the bottom here, but please put a Picatinny rail on this. It will open up so many new possibilities for this fantastic firearm.
Yep, that's right. Here we have a fancy target pistol that is so good at being a pistol, we want to use it for everything. As mentioned, the TS2 would be ideal for home defense. It has impeccable reliability, and if you ever ran out of ammo, you could easily use the hulking steel slab as a cudgel. For a little context, in the past, countless soldiers have carried the original CZ75 into battle. The same can be said of police working in the line of duty. This means the TS2 pistol is made in the image of greatness. Military, law enforcement, competition, personal defense, this gun can perform exceedingly well in virtually any capacity. As far as greatest of all time, with regard to performance, reliability, and versatility, this design is second only to that of John Browning's legendary 1911. Now, I would love to see this thing jump off of the competition circuit and into the gun that does everything category. However, CZ has in fact already thought of that.
CZ Tactical Sport 2. Completely awesome. CZ Shadow 2. Also completely awesome. Either way, you just can't go wrong.
The Shadow 2 does come with a Picatinny rail, meaning that it can easily step into the roles of both competition pistol and all-purpose tactical operations gun. However, that's a story for another video, and we will be sure to do a side-by-side comparison very soon. So before we get too far off track, let's circle back to the TS2. If you are doing your research, here are a few things you might want to know, starting with the big one up front. Price tag. As of this recording, the CZ Tactical Sport 2 has an MSRP of $1,650. Now that might sound like a lot of money for a pistol, especially if you are comparing it to your everyday polymer guns out there, such as a basic Glock. However, when we put the CZ up against its peers in the competition shooting world, it becomes abundantly obvious that this is probably the best deal in the entire industry. The custom 2011s have pretty much overtaken the competition scene in the last decade, and when we look at the pricing chart, things begin to come into focus. The sky is the limit, and you might as well start feeding your money into a wood chipper. It's also good to remember that just because something is expensive doesn't mean that it's better. The CZ delivers top-tier performance at a fraction of the cost that we find with other guns. Now, I have no doubt that the 2011 competition pistols are completely awesome. However, so too is the CZ. And the way these prices are stacking up, you could easily have 2 CZ pistols for less than the price of a single Staccato 2011. That's definitely something to think about the next time you're getting ready to set off a nuclear detonation in your bank account.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to talk all things CZ Tactical Sport 2. Now, throughout the duration of the show, we've kind of been talking about the differences between this pistol and the Shadow 2. As you can see, they are, of course, very similar. The Shadow 2 and the Tactical Sport both being modeled off of the venerable CZ 75. That's where both of these guys kind of get their genetic engineering. Now, the Tactical Sport is, of course, very different from the Shadow 2 in several different reasons. The first and foremost being that this is a single action only pistol. For instance, if we put the hammer forward with a round in the chamber, there's no way that I can squeeze the trigger, draw the hammer back, and have it fire. This is, again, a single action only trigger. So the only way this weapon is going to fire is with that single action pull. Now, they've done that specifically because this is a target pistol. This is meant for the range. This is meant for competition. Even though they do call it the Tactical Sport, I think that's probably not a very good name for this, considering that it does not in fact have a Picatinny rail across the bottom. So if you're doing things that operators do, you cannot attach a light or a laser or any type of accessories that you would use in a real world situation. So you're not gonna be shooting things at night with this gun. You're pretty much only gonna be out on the range at the competition, honing your skills as best you can. And I gotta tell you, if you want a gun for practicing, for honing your skills, and for becoming a better shooter, this is the way to go. This thing is an absolute joy to shoot. It is made out of an absolutely massive slab of steel. It's a very, very heavy gun, which I think just gives it all of its excellent qualities. Basically, you have the winning combination for reduced recoil and muzzle flip. The internal slide rails that run across the top of the weapon up here are much, much lighter compared to the enormous amount of steel that you have down on the bottom. As a result, it shoots very, very flat, gets back on target very easily, and steel is, in my personal opinion, the best material in the world for soaking up any type of violent, explosive vibration, which means the gun just doesn't even feel like it's going off in your hands at all. I mean, it gives you a quick little snap. It might as well be a 22. For the level of accuracy and ease of shooting, I can't get enough of this pistol. It is so much fun to operate. So, a couple things that you would probably want to know about this gun is that it is a little bit more expensive than your baseline Shadow 2. And that's because it comes with a few extra accessories. This gun does come with a magwell already right out of the box. If you buy a basic Shadow 2, it's not gonna have that. You kind of have to accessorize your Shadow 2 from the ground up, whereas this gun is pretty much ready to go straight out onto the competition field as it is. My particular gun is not cut for an optic. I don't particularly care for optics on my pistols, but you can get them optics ready where they mill out the back there, and it can take any optic, any plate that you want to be able to shoot any optic that you want, which is really cool. This particular one does not. I would actually have to have this one milled out. But again, if you're purchasing a gun new, CZ does offer the optical plate option. Okay, so anytime that you come up to your last round, the gun does a very good job of going into slide lock. I really, really like that. It lets you know, hey, I'm hungry, I need to hit a new magazine. Now, let's take a minute to talk about the magazine release. The magazine release is very, very prominent. It sticks out very far. A lot of people that I've kind of researched over the years have said they don't really like that magazine release because it does stick out too far. It does maybe have the potential of snagging a holster or accidentally depressing while in the holster, because it really does stick out for a long way. I've never personally had a problem with it. It takes a little getting used to, but once you do get used to that mag release, it's a nice little piece. It's very heavily spring loaded, and when you hit it, your magazine just ejects, just like it's being expelled, like the ejector seat on the James Bond car. It's a really, really nice feature. And so from slide lock, she is made to go back into battery very quickly. Once your first magazine is out, the next one goes in very nicely into the mag funnel. I had a little bit of a hard time getting used to this mag well. It's not 100% smooth down in there, but after a little bit of break-in period and after a little bit of practice, it becomes relatively easy to hit those magazine changes, mostly without looking. All guns are a little bit different. If you shoot SIGs, if you shoot Glocks, and if you've add magazine wells to the bottom of your guns, they're all gonna be slightly different. I like this one. It's nice, it's aesthetically pleasing, and it definitely does the job. So once you kind of get used to your mag well, like I say, it's got a couple little chunks in there that aren't 100% smooth, but once you get used to your mag well, yeah, your weapon goes back into battery pretty quickly. Now, as you can see, I kind of hit mine a little hard, and she went in automatically. Again, this thing is definitely designed to get back into battery very quickly so that you can get back onto your next target run if you are running a competition. I'm a big fan of how she shoots. I'm also a big fan of the safety mechanism in the back here. This gun does have a little bit of a different safety. So on the right-hand side, it is ambidextrous, so it can be accessed by both sides. On the right-hand side, it's a lot smoother, and on the left-hand side, we have this large paddle over here. And I've also heard a lot of shooters complain about that paddle. It took me a little bit of getting used to, but once you learn how to use it, it kind of acts as a back seat gas pedal, right? You can get your thumb on top of that and really help to drive that gun down to help manage recoil. Not that it has much recoil at all. Your next hand can kind of slide up. There's generous portions on this lower rail here, the full-size dust cover, to get that extra thumb up on the other side of the gun. And from there, she is off to the races. So one more quick eject, and let's take a minute to talk about the slide release. I really like the slide release. It's generously sized, it's kind of big, it has these little stair steps on it that really allow you to hit that button and really get that next mag into operation. So when we come in, boom, she goes straight in very easily, right back into battery, getting you back into the game so that you can start to hit your next series of targets. Again, the solid steel construction is absolutely fantastic. It is a really well-rounded pistol. It's been balanced. The full-length barrel, it's a 5-inch barrel, and the full-length dust cover just give it an enormous amount of mass to keep the gun from ever coming back up. You're never gonna get this much recoil as much as you would from something like a polymer gun. It shoots extremely flat, which is why a lot of competition shooters choose these CZ pistols when they're going out and winning matches. Not that I would ever win a match. I'm not a competition shooter. I'm pretty average, pretty less than average actually. But even a less than average shooter can really have an absurdly awesome run with a gun that's this good. So, all in all, I would have to say this is easily one of my favorite firearms of all time. It meets all the criteria that I really like about a gun. Absolutely tank-like construction, solid steel. It's a very heavy gun. So if you want something that's lightweight, this is not for you. This is probably one of the heaviest pistols on the market, I would say, until you start getting into your Colt Pythons and your Anacondas and your gigantic 357s that are, sticking out this far. So if you're interested in having an extremely well-built piece of machinery, that's exactly what this is. That's the first thing that I look for anytime that I'm kind of shopping for a new firearm. Build construction and reliability. Reliability is another thing about this gun that is absolutely fantastic. She does not have a whole lot of problems ever. There's a little bit of a break-in period when you first get one of these things because they are so tightly built. After the first 100 or 200 rounds or so, it just runs like a monster. There's nothing that can stop this gun from ever slowing you down on the range. And there you go.
Okay, price comparisons, all steel frame, blah, blah, blah. How does the thing actually shoot? Short answer, it's one of the best guns out there. The trigger, which is also made of steel, is crisp and light. There's no wiggle, no wobble, no slop of any kind. Your finger meets the wall and the wall unleashes the round. Then it resets faster than the neurons in your brain can send a signal to your finger for a follow-up shot. If we look closely at the slow motion footage, you can see my finger going all over the place, like a wild pig flailing around in his favorite mud hole. This is by no means the gun, this is the shooter. Meaning that if you put this thing into the hands of a person with actual talent, it's going to send a steady succession of bullets right into the A-zone. The CZ uses good old-fashioned physics to virtually eliminate felt recoil. There are no ports or compensators, no extra mechanical parts that can fail. Just a winning formula of mass ratio from top to bottom. The internal slide is very light compared to the massive steel grip module. This means that every shot is easy to handle, and the gun gets back on target with every follow-up shot. The result is a tack-driving laser machine, which also has impeccable reliability, and that is not an easy combo to find. Now, I am by no means a marksman, and this gun has more accuracy than I could ever hope to tap into. Therefore, the number one criteria that we typically evaluate these pistols on is the straight-up stone-cold quality of the build construction, and therefore subsequent reliability. And I'm pleased to say that when it comes to quality, the CZ Tactical Sport 2 gets top marks in this, the most critical of categories. So if you like heavy-duty, old-school craftsmanship, you will get along just fine with this pistol. In conclusion, if you are thinking about getting into the competition scene and you're really not sure where to start, the TS2 is a serious contender with a modest price tag. If you just enjoy shooting, practicing, honing your skills, and having fun on the range, this pistol is absolutely delightful. And if I may be so bold as to interject one final opinion, the rugged construction is easily this gun's greatest feature. When your pistol is built to withstand a nuclear blast, you can guarantee a great many years of rock-solid performance and reliability, both today and long into the future.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for joining us. I certainly hope that you had fun on our little CZ adventure. Now, if you have any interesting stories about the TS2 or even the Shadow 2, please be sure to drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. We have a lot of cool new stuff coming up, and I don't want you to miss out. That's gonna do it for now. See you next time.